One spin, two spins. Senior living facility where blind people live. Come get them. I just got interviewed by CBS 46, and it was about, guess what? These things blocking people's path. A bird scooter sitting here blocking the wheelchair ramp, blocking the other sidewalk over here. How am I supposed to get past this thing? Huh? I'll show you how I get past them. That's how I get past them. Next time, put it someplace else, like in the street. Doesn't belong on the sidewalks. See this scooter? You see that dumpster? It's been here for a week. Come and get your scooter.
I had was basically a motorcycle with an electric engine. So this thing was nuts. And I didn't know, how powerful it was until I got on it. And I flew 6 or 8 feet or something in the air and landed on my spine.
Well, the fact the bike is called the Spine Shatterer 2000 might have given you a clue.
So this one I was...
But again, 6-week-old twins, Mateo and Lorenzo, have been found safe, and the suspect is in police custody. An investigation
Were taken from a home after a shooting. No word on the relationship between the babies and the woman who is accused of taking them.
The 3 men.
The only person I've ever taken a knee for was my little demander. And I did it willingly.
Yes, I found my baby crying.
I got me a new bean grinder.
Protection Division has set up a price gouging hotline that you can call and report instances of price gouging. We'll post that on our website, fox5atlanta.com. Live in Tucker, Rob DiRienzo.
Seeing long lines around the southeast as people try to fill up their tanks after that cyber attack shut down a 5,500-mile pipeline headquartered in Alpharetta. Now, the governor has encouraged people to just buy what they need at this point. Don't go to the gas station if you're above 3/4 of a tank, for example. Not to rush out or fill up their gas cans. He has lowered the gas tax to help with some of the increased demand and prices at the gas pump, but this is the situation all over Metro Atlanta. Many gas stations simply out of gas at this point. We're on top of the situation, and we'll bring you more information as it becomes available.
Speaking of, Governor
Americans' flights from Charlotte to Honolulu, for example, normally a direct flight, will now stop in Dallas-Fort Worth so customers can change planes. The other impacted route is from Charlotte to London. It will now stop to refuel in Boston. Well, officials say it might be until the weekend until that major pipeline is back online after that ransomware hack. Gas prices are expected to jump as some areas are seeing a strain on resources. It has put a harsh spotlight on the vulnerability of the nation's energy infrastructure. Fox's Lauren Blanchard has more from Washington.
The Colonial Pipeline delivers 45% of the East Coast fuel supply. The company said it may take until the end of the week or into the weekend to get their system back up and running after a ransomware attack on Friday brought operations to a standstill.
Where we're likely to see the soonest impact is going to be more at the southeast. So Mississippi, Tennessee, over to Georgia and up to Delaware.
Resources are starting to dwindle in some areas. North Carolina's governor has declared a state of emergency. There have been long lines of motorists panic buying gas or unable to fill their tanks. It's straining the disrupted supply and will drive up prices.
That national average is likely to hit $3 a gallon here soon, and we haven't seen prices like that since 2014.
The White House says they are monitoring the issue. Quote, the president has directed agencies across the federal government to bring their resources to bear to help alleviate shortages where they may occur. The attack has highlighted just how vulnerable the nation's energy infrastructure, run primarily by the private sector, is against cyber attacks, which experts say will only become worse in the future. The FBI says a Russia-based group called DarkSide is responsible for this hack.
We need better ongoing real-time communication between the private sector, in this case the Colonial Pipeline, and our people inside the government who know how to identify and deal with this sort of thing.
Over the last 2 weeks, gas prices have risen 6 cents nationally. The Colonial Pipeline disruption could drive those prices up another 3 to 7 cents this week. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
Here is the
The
latest
gas lines
story we've been
at
telling
the
you
gas
about
station reminds me of the 70s when OPEC
that a woman's died in an explosion at a Tucker restaurant.
gave a do not deliver order. There was 50 boats
Say that the explosion came from what
sitting
appears
in
to be a
Chesapeake
gas
Harbor,
a smoker at Main Moon's Chinese restaurant.
filled with crude oil,
just a short time ago,
and they were not going to offload.
The explosion to be an accident.
Good news
They
tonight
just
out of
dropped
Savannah
anchor
as
and
the two
sat
baby
there.
boys at the center of an ambulance.
Some of them were coming out obviously visibly shaken by what they had just witnessed, but none of them seemed to be injured. However, that was not the case for one of the workers inside.
Once they arrived on scene, crews were able to assist in helping a woman that was involved in some type of an explosion involving an oven. At this time, the woman is in critical condition, and the cause of the explosion is still under investigation.
As you can imagine, they are having a really hard time wrapping their minds around this one. The Southwest Atlanta family just devastated that their father and uncle that they loved so much is now gone. And they tell me they definitely want some answers here. Family members say 63-year-old Dexter Calhoun was driving home Saturday night when witnesses tell them he accidentally tapped a car and then possibly pulled off. Now, the Calhouns say what happened next is just hard to believe, and now this loving father, grandfather, and protector has lost his life.
It was just as easy to switch insurance and let's go on about our business. It needed no fight, no gun, no anything. Like, it was pointless.
Now, coming up at 5 o'clock, we will hear from Dexter Calhoun's only son, who says his father was really more than a dad to him. Look forward to that. We've also been talking to Atlanta police, who are looking for the person that did the shooting. Reporting live in Southwest Atlanta.
Cameras that need to be functioning at all the stations. And here's the point. Those cameras do you no good if no one is watching after the firefighters leave the station. Night creepers. 2 intruders made easy entry through a fence during an earlier crime at an Atlanta firehouse, looking for personal items from firefighters' vehicles. Thieves wait for an alarm to pounce, and last week at a station on the south side, someone smashed windows and forced doors open. They wound up doing more damage than finding enough valuables to make the gamble worthwhile.
I'm sure there's probably some level of review going on about the security of the fire stations and what type of resources you might need from the council to help to address that.
The new Atlanta Fire Chief briefed members of the City Council Public Safety Panel.
What we determined was that the rear gate had been compromised.
At the station that was just hit, there's an old fence with minimal wiring across it. The city on Monday bolstered that fence with razor wire.
We determined that they came in up under the gate in the back, there was a void up under that space. And so we're going to secure that space.
Beyond fencing, all city cameras are monitored in one secret downtown location. The monitoring goes on 24 hours a day and would provide coverage even while the firefighters are asleep. But the city still must link all the firehouse cameras to the VIC, the Video Integration Center. Updating the old fencing, new locks, the security cameras. Yes, there'll be a price tag for all these upgrades. The amount? That'll be included in the upcoming Atlanta City budget. From Buckhead, I'm Morse Diggs, Fox 5 News.
People who were needing unemployment benefits.
State Senator Marty Harbin says the COVID-19 pandemic was something the Georgia Department of Labor had never seen before. According to the GDOL, they have processed more than 4.7 million initial unemployment claims since mid-March 2020, more than the previous 9 years combined.
So they had a tough job. More than anything, it was trying to get them to have help.
Senator Harbin was the primary sponsor of Senate Bill 156, which would have created the position of Chief Labor Officer, who would have had the same authority as the Labor Commissioner. The bill charged the labor officer with keeping tabs on the state's unemployment claims. But Governor Brian Kemp announced Monday that he vetoed that legislation. While I understand the frustration that many in our state have felt regarding the backlog of unemployment claims, Senate Bill 156 proposes significant infringements on the separation of powers guaranteed by Georgia's Constitution, the governor said in a veto statement. That's because while Georgians elect the labor commissioner, state lawmakers would have appointed the chief labor officer. Senator Harbin says the bill underwent significant changes during the legislative process, and while he wasn't totally pleased with the final outcome, he hopes this bill will still push the Department of Labor to improve.
And this was a test of the system, and I think there's some things that need to be done, and hopefully, even though it was vetoed, it would be a message that we need to change that and update that system, especially with the technology we have today.
I reached out to the Labor Commissioner's office, and a spokesperson told me that they are glad the governor decided to veto the bill. At the state capitol, Claire Sims, Fox 5 News.
Warnock in supporting the For the People Act to protect the right to vote, modernize voter registration, stop the purges that knock eligible Georgians off the voter rolls, and finally end dark money. Because it's time for the people to win. Seat number?
Good morning, everybody.
Results on your first visit guaranteed or pay nothing. Call now. Let's get waxed. Monday on Daily Madame Tussauds Wax Figure. Plus hot topics from your one and only. Coming up next on
U.S. border town of Roma, Texas. Migrant families were seen Monday rowing across the river overnight. When they arrived, Border Patrol agents took them into custody. Officials say these kinds of crossings are happening every day as migrants seek a better life here in the U.S. In recent weeks, Mexico has been putting pressure on Washington to invest in Central America and southern Mexico to create incentives for people not to migrate.
New tonight, congressional Republicans say they were found abandoned at the U.S.-Mexico border on Sunday. They reportedly range in age from 11 months to 7 years old, coming from Guatemala and Honduras. A farmer says he discovered them near the Rio Grande River, crying and hungry. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton says the incident underscores the worsening situation along the border.
Seeing all these kids packed in, high risk of disease, being dealt with by the cartels because they don't get here unless the cartels let them. And the only people I think that are benefiting by this humanitarian crisis are the cartels.
Large groups of migrants continue to just pour across the Rio Grande in broad daylight, including many who say they're from Venezuela. They're guided over by smugglers and then present themselves to local law enforcement. Border Patrol agents in Del Rio say they're tied up with apprehensions and they need more manpower.
The cartels can really gauge where our Border Patrol agents are. They use, an awful lot of scouts and information, and then what they do is try and take advantages of those gaps.
On Tuesday, 20 governors wrote a letter to President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, calling on them both to take immediate action along the southern border, writing in part, quote, "At a time when our country is trying to recover from a once-in-a-generation pandemic, the last thing we need is a self-created crisis that exploits families, undermines public safety, and threatens our national security." The Vice President is expected to visit the border next month with stops in Guatemala and Mexico. In Del Rio, Texas, Bill Lujan, Fox News.
Scanning technology to verify customer ID cards.
It either goes green for go, yellow for we need to hold this sale for just a moment, take a little closer look at the ID. But if it hits red, no go, no sale.
And at Max, that's an automatic confiscation of the fake card. In the rare event that someone wants to dispute a red result, there's an officer on duty who can run the card against state records.
A lot of people, they understand game over. What I'm more surprised about, besides the fact that they can get them, is how good they look.
The criminals now have this down to a science where they can even print these, in a camper van with a generator on a high-quality printer.
Intellicheck CEO Brian Lewis says young people order a lot of authentic-looking cards online from vendors overseas. But he says many fraudulent ID makers directly target fraternities, sororities, and even high school students who are willing to pay good money for a bad ID.
The pricing that I was just looking at this morning for Georgia, if you order one by yourself, it's $200. If you order it with one other friend, it's $80, and 4 or more, they drop to $70.
Lewis says clients like Max Beer and Wine have reported the higher rate of authentic-looking fake cards all across the country. He hopes state lawmakers will crack down on the problem, but says in the meantime, parents should intervene.
To make sure that the kids know that you can get in serious trouble for this, and especially depending on where you're at. And what do you want to get, you can be charged with felonies for having these fake IDs.
Everybody should be concerned about underage consumption of beverage alcohol. It's not healthy. I don't think it's good for the community.
In Atlanta, Portia Bruner, Fox 5 News.
I wonder how many undocumented people have those fake IDs.
To work on the temple's construction while only making $1 per hour. New Jersey's Labor Board recently issued a stop work order against the construction company overseeing that project. A man is arrested after leading police on a 53-mile chase in a stolen U-Haul. Take a look at this video from the chase. The truck was initially reported stolen to Irvine police in Southern California. At one point, the truck's front right tire caught fire. You could see the flames there a moment ago. The driver jumped out and tried to run away on foot before officers caught up to him. Caught on camera, intense flames shoot from a ruptured gas line in Sacramento. This happened Monday at a homeless encampment. Fire officials believe a break in a natural gas line underneath the road sparked the fire. Crews with PG&E, the utility in California, were called in to cap off the leak, and the flames were eventually extinguished. We have no reports of any injuries. Now, you might remember this story from earlier in the week. The alleged owner of a Bengal tiger found in a Houston neighborhood is now in jail. Police charge Victor Hugo Cuevas with running from officers with a tiger in tow. But investigators want to know, where is the tiger? A lawyer for Cuevas says the animal does not belong to his client. He says his client was working with police to help them find the tiger and the owner. When he was arrested last night, the big cat apparently got out from a home Sunday night where it was reportedly being kept as a pet and started wandering the streets and lawns. Houston does not allow big cats in city limits, but as you can see right there, Christine, that one was there anyway.
And now they can't
be with her. In fact, he had seen some photos of her in the Dominican Republic.
Across the country to add a little magic to a very important day.
It's good for the soul. It's unique.
Hightower Falls is a family-owned wedding and event venue nestled on 100 acres in Polk County. Elizabeth Walls knows it well. Her parents bought the property 26 years ago.
A lot of love has gone into this place, so it definitely didn't look like this. There were no working buildings and everything, but it was a true gem.
Mining the story of that gem means going back to the mid-1800s, when Walls says Elias Dorsey Hightower owned it and had a stone grist mill built alongside the 80-foot waterfall.
Mr. Hightower built it as a 3-story working business with a slate roof and a big water wheel on the right-hand side. They, used it to grind up corn and wheat primarily.
The mill survived the Civil War, but fell out of use a few decades later. Today, it's
been a hell of a day in the neighborhood.